Welcome back to the program. In case you're just joining us, it's time for our conversation right now. My guests are with me. Let me start by introducing Iliyasu Gashinbaki, who is the Chairman Board of Trustees, Society for Forensic Accounting and Fraud Prevention. Welcome, Mr. Gashinbaki, on the program.
Thank you, Nancy, for having me.
All right, Dr. Franklin Ngwu is joining me from Lagos. He's an economist with the Lagos Business School. Dr. Ngwu, are you there? How is Lagos?
Good morning, and thank you for having me, Nancy.
Thank God you said good morning today, not good afternoon. Because you Lagos people, you may just be in a different time zone. Who knows? All right, welcome to the program. Just before I come to you, we actually did put together some data for perspectives for this program. It's already on the wall, so can we really take it so that viewers can have an understanding of what we're talking about? Just before the break, I did say I will be looking at how states will indeed adjust to the oil price slump that we are witnessing currently. Just like I said earlier, Brent crude is trading around $32 a barrel. So what does that mean? FAC allocation to states will definitely reduce. Let's quickly take the data. Do we have it? 36 states and the FCT generated about 986.2 billion in 9 months, which was up by 16% from 844 billion the corresponding period of 2018. We see that Lagos as well as Rivers top other states in revenue generation. What you're seeing right now on the screen, okay, that's what I just said. States with highest IGR, you're seeing Lagos, of course, is there. Lagos contributes about 30% of total IGR, or gets 30% of total IGR. FCT 55 billion, River State 107.02 billion, Delta State 49.5 billion, as you can see right there on the screen. States with the lowest IGR include Taraba, Gombe, as well as Yobe. If we take a look at FAC allocation to states in 2019, I think we saw the highest allocation in August, according to the data, 219.86 billion. That was August last year. While we saw about 218 billion in July, 212 in September, 214 in October, 201, 207 in January and February, respectively. So states received a total of about 2.47 trillion naira last year. What more do we have to tell you? States with the highest FAC disbursements in 2019, as you can see right now on your screen, Delta State, which happens to be my state, is there on top, 219. Akwa Ibom, 171. Rivers, Bayelsa, Kano, Lagos, FCT, Kaduna, Edo, Katsina, Enugu State, where my husband, or where I'm from now, is not on the top 10. What's happening? Governor Ogwani, are you listening? Anyway, states with lowest FAC disbursement in 2019, you see Osun, Ekiti, Zamfara, Nasarawa, Kwara, Ebonyi. All right, that sets a background for our discussion this morning. Let me start by asking Dr. Ngwu over there in Lagos so that we'll have his own perspective. Dr. Ngwu, can I see you? Yes, I can. Historically, we've seen slump in oil prices not new at all. We've seen this cycle of oil bust and oil boom. So it seems that there's a new normal of lower oil prices that will impact not just oil and gas producers, but will impact every nation or every country, every company, and every person that depends on oil price or on oil. What fundamental shift should happen at the FG side? Let's take a look at the FG side first. What fundamental shift should happen at the FG side, since we have a scenario of the Abuja handout system where we operate like a federal system that states come to Abuja for handouts every month? So what fundamental shift should happen at the federal government side first?
Thank you. I think we will all agree that for a long time now, states have relied on the federal government allocation for majority of what they want to do. So as you listed out states with IGR, you can see that there are not many of the states are not doing well. So it's something that is not good at all, and it clearly demonstrates also the lack of vision and lack of good leadership of our governors. So if I'm answering your question with regards to what should happen at the FG side, of course, many of the states are already clamoring for an adjustment in terms of the percentage allocation from the FAC. Anytime there is a problem, the state governors will say, oh, we have to get more allocation from the states. But that's not the way to go. It is time for our state governors to start being proactive, to start asking real questions, and start implementing strategies that will make their state viable. There is no state in Nigeria that is not viable. So for instance, we have the coronavirus that is causing serious crisis. But we've not had any statement from any state governor saying this is our plan with regards to the impact of the coronavirus on our state. UN Economic Report has said that our revenue will likely go down by over 50%. It means that the allocations to states will definitely go down as well. It means that many of them will say they cannot pay salaries. It means that they will now tell the federal government to give them money and all that. But that is not the way to go. So at the same time, most of the time when we talk about development issues in Nigeria, we now focus on the federal government. It shouldn't be the way. It is time for us to start asking our governors questions in terms of what they done with regards to IGR, infrastructure, good governance, and other aspects of development, job creation, and all that. So this continuous insistence or reliance on what the federal government should do is not the way to go. If we want to, with regards to this issue, there are little things that the federal government can do as well. One, as I've argued in many times, that there might be need to allocate or devolve more powers to the states. That is the only thing I can argue that the federal government needs to do in terms of giving more powers to the states, in terms of allocating more revenue to the state. But the state governors also need to critically start taking serious governance in their different states.
Okay, let me come to Mr. Gashinbaki. What are your views concerning the question I asked earlier? Because let's start, why I asked that question, let's start from the federal government first. Yeah. If there is indeed a fundamental shift we need to begin to see.
Yes, indeed. It's just that we've been revolving around same issues year after year. What Nigerians are forgetting is that come October 1st this year, Nigeria will be 60.
60 years.
60 years is good enough to have fixed so many things. So my own view is not about whether the federal government should have more, state should have more, or the local government should have more. The view that we need to push and what we need to canvass is for every Nigerian across all the 3 tiers of government and arms of government to come to terms with the reality that this is the end of oil. This is it. So it's not about whether the prices will surge up. It's not about whether there will be a twist tomorrow and oil will be $100 or $200. It's no longer the argument. The argument of price, we have gone past that. Since 2000 and you remember the financial crisis in 2008. Now, of course, we were a little bit insulated because we were not directly affected, so to say, but still, the shocks were there.
But because we had some bullets in the kitty.
That was one.
Yes.
And then secondly,
SS account was huge. We had our FS reserve was more than what it is today.
Yes. And another thing that people are not even looking at as at that time, you know, China was not involved. And China had the deep pocket it was a buffer to the shocks around the world. Now we've seen what the corona has done, and oil within minutes is now hovering between the 20s and the 30s. So it's not, we should not continue to deceive ourselves hoping that, okay, the price will rally and we'll forget about it again. That has been what we've been doing for the past 60 years. What is shocking, between 2005 and 2007, the Nigerian government issued 77 oil licenses. From that 2005 till date, only one oil field has been developed out of the 77 licenses. Why? The PIB has been stacked. I think is 3 national assemblies now, isn't it?
We're in the 9th, apparently.
Yes, so what I'm saying, it's, for all I can remember, actively, the bill has been stuck in with about 3 legislative...
which is how many years lost?
Almost 12 years of inaction. Yes. So and no one should be surprised about the fact that even though the signature bonuses have been paid and whatever, these guys that own the oil licenses have not been able to go ahead and develop, because you can't invest in a situation of uncertainty. So what we are saying in this sense is that the conversation should no longer be whether or not oil prices will rally, whether or not the mainstay of the Nigerian economy should remain as oil. The shift should now be that we should just declare a state of emergency and say, assuming it's even zero oil revenue, can Nigeria survive? Can the three tiers of government still pull through? So those are the hard questions that we need to ask, bite the bullet, be decisive about it, and resolve these issues. Otherwise, in the next 60 years again, we'll still be here.
Now, with this question you asked, let me re-ask you again, and
yes.
I should get an answer.
Yes.
If there is a zero oil revenue,
yes.
no oil, that's if we're not making, do you think Nigeria can survive with these 3 tiers of government we have as of today? Would we survive, yes or no? The
answer is the 3 tiers of government, the structure as it is being operated, unless we actually introduce proper fiscal discipline, proper review of our cost structure, proper review of our governance system, definitely we can't be able to fund the structure of government that we have.
Should I answer it for you a no?
Yes.
Since you don't want to answer a capital no. Okay, let me go back to Dr. Ngwu. Dr. Ngwu, when you were speaking earlier on, you did mention vision and leadership of governors seemingly a bit myopic. Do you think that perhaps the central system of government or the federal system which we are operating in the country is also impeding development and is also impeding how far their vision can go in different states?
It's yes and no. One is that the structure that we have in the system can be reviewed to make it more functional, to make it better. But the other question is, what can we say that the state governors have done with the one that they have, or the much that they have? So if you go across Nigeria, you find out outside few states like Lagos, maybe a bit of Kaduna, Rivers, the other states are a little bit in Ngwu. The other states are just nothing to write home about. Poverty, unemployment, insecurity, and all that. So the question, why I talk about vision and leadership, is that most of our governors are normally very reactive in the way they govern our states. So there's really no strategic thinking in terms of what will this state look like in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years, as the case may be. So like my colleague just mentioned, is it not possible for a state governor to say, we want to do, there's something that we call business continuity management. A governor can say, let's plan and say that in the next 5 years, my state will not be dependent on the revenue from the federal government. Let me think of what I can do to ensure that this state in the next 5 years will not really rely on federal government. And it's possible, as I said before, every state in Nigeria is very viable. And I think that it's also time for the insistence of some groups of federal government to do things better. I think it's time for us to also focus on states. I'm talking about, why can't we have a kind of peer review mechanism where with independent body can really assess different states and say this state is number 1, number 2, number 3. I'm not talking about the awards given by the newspapers that this is the best governor as the case. And that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about an independent body that will assess all these things. So if you do that, you find out that most states in Nigeria are not doing well. So if you look at what is going on now, you can talk about infrastructure. You can say that maybe Ebonyi and Kaduna are coming up a little bit. In terms of IGR, or in terms of improving governance and other, in those states, and maybe Kaduna as well, but the many states are not doing anything. So I am thinking that as groups like Afenifere or Haneze, Pandev, non-elders forum, as they are pressuring the federal government to do certain things right, I also think that it is time for them to also come together and start telling the governors of the different regions the truth and saying, you guys are not doing what you are supposed to do. We've done a review mechanism, and this is what you're doing. So they can sit down with the governors in the different regions and say, we are elders of this place, we are elders of this state, and we believe that you can do X, Y, Z better. So there are so many things that can be done, because if you keep doing this reactive approach, you find out that when a governor comes in, he's thinking about how to win a second term. Once he wins a second term, the next thing is how will he become the president or the vice president or the Senate or go to the Senate, without a clear perspective in terms of how the state will develop, without a clear perspective of how to generate good revenue. If they want to increase revenue, the only thing that they will do is to increase taxes. I know for a state at the moment, if you want to build a house, the thing has moved by over 100% to get approval from the local government to the state government. And that's the only way they say that they want to increase revenue. But there are so many other things they can do to increase revenue in their different states. So if we look at the country at the moment, the focus that they should supposed to look at is we have high level of insecurity in Nigeria. So the first question is that in the short term, we need to see how we can increase agriculture. And to increase agriculture, there needs to be security in the different parts of Nigeria. So I commend the governors of Southwest states for launching Amotekun, which will help, which in collaboration with the police, they can now address the insecurity. So the question is, why is it that the governors of the Southeast, North Central, South, are not also coming up with, or even Northwest and Northeast, are not coming up with clear strategy to address the insecurity in the country? Because there is no way we can increase our agriculture without insecurity. So I keep emphasizing that it's time for the governors to really sit back and say, are we doing the right thing? Are we not doing the right thing?
Okay, Doctor, I think the South region is also coming up with a security outfit like the Amotekuns, and I think other areas too are also coming up with that. But you said something that was quite instructive, which is talking about the peer review mechanism. And my guest here was involved in a peer review mechanism years ago. I remember, is that 2012? I think I did like shows, 2009, yes. I did shows,
2010.
Yes, on peer review. He was involved even at that time with the Nigerian Governors Forum. I don't know what is happening now, though I know I spoke with the DG Nigerian Governors Forum some weeks ago, yes, at an event, and he did promise me, because I asked him, I said, the first time which you were involved, we, yes, had seen it, but we had not seen anything like that anymore. So he did tell me at that time, I'm talking of Mr. Okaru, of DG NGF, he did tell me that they will come up again with it. But what he said, okay, you want to respond?
Yes, please let me just correct something. Of course, you know that Nigerian Governors Forum is a club of governors. So, I mean, it will be difficult for the governors to call out themselves and say, oh, you're not doing well here, you are not doing well there, and the rest of them. I'm talking about a body that is independent of Nigerian Governors Forum. So there's no way you will get a very objective assessment of the state if it is done and organized by Nigerian Governors Forum. It has to be independent. So we have to tell ourselves the hard truth and say, you're not doing well here, you're not doing well here, you're not doing well here. And people should also start holding the state governors accountable to what is going on in their states.
Okay, Dr. Ngwu. Okay, Dr. Ngwu, just halt for a bit. Let me ask Mr. Gashinbaki what the experience was, because I also realized that there were a group of independents at that time that did that. So yeah, just speak to that fact.
Yeah, well, what happened then was President Obasanjo decided to say, look, just like the African peer review mechanism, there was a need then to peer review the states. So what the Nigerian Governors Forum did through the National Economic Council was to now put together a set of highly qualified independent consultants. So the process was supported by DFID and someone who was part of Dr. Jerome, who was the lead consultant.
At the AU now?
Yes. So he was recruited especially
by
Professor
Jerome.
Yes, Professor Jerome.
Yes.
to now coordinate the state peer review. And in my own view, it went well, and we exercised, let me say, a reasonable degree of independence, because what we were, our own approach was not to criticize the governors, but the approach was to draw what we call commendable practices, where if Governor A is doing something right, we will now, in terms of efficiency, in terms of cost, in terms of deployment and the logistics around it, we recommend same as a commendable practice to another governor.
But so, were you in any way at that time, when I mean where that's your group,
yes,
did you at any point also speak to the governors that were not doing well in certain areas?
Yes, we did. Because it was easy
because
to
just
do
like
it.
Doctor said, that they may not just have the boldness to speak. Were you people bold then to say, Governor, so you are not doing well, this is what you should do?
This was our strategy, and I'll give you a classical example. We visited a state then that had an airport project that I understand now has been turned into an NYC camp. Then a neighboring state has the same airport project that the cost were completely significantly different. So the other one has higher cost and is taking longer. This one has low cost, it's almost completed. And what we just did was to put it side by side. So you could see it yourself. So it is a very, very respectable way of correcting the system. So that was our own approach to it. Once we identify that there is a commendable practice here and there is a similar project in another state that is much more efficient, much more smarter, so we make that recommendation. I think if the Nigerian Governors Forum is listening, the peer review should be resurrected. I was just thinking even before this show, look at it now, the whole of North America, Europe is locked down. Now, you have hammered this on this show, that the limitation of inter-African trade. Now, not just inter-African trade, even interstate trade in Nigeria is something that we should look at seriously to see how the economies of each state can interact and how do we work on our areas of advantage. So the simple answer to this is that the Nigerian Governors Forum, I think they should take this thing up. It's the right time now to do another leg of the peer review. And all development partners should give the necessary support like DFID did that time, because to hire qualified and independent consultants that...
But what's Dr. Ngwu saying, apart from, should we have independent consultants do it, apart from Nigerian Governors Forum?
No, the Nigerian Governors Forum should still drive it because they are the gatekeepers. It's like even the Nigerian Governors Forum did not just do it on their own. They rely on council resolution of the National Economic Council, which is a constitutional body. So it was the National Economic Council that approved the peer review and said, okay, the channel for implementation will be, like the platform for implementation should be the Nigerian Governors Forum. And then DFID came from back end to support the hiring of consultants that went to do the peer review. And it was a very exhaustive exercise in the sense that we have sector experts in each area, and each state that we visit will have a presentation by the ESCO. Then we'll come back with one-on-one with the governor. Even the deputy governor will not be in that meeting. And that's where we can bluntly tell their excellencies that these are the failures.
Okay. Just before I come back to Dr. Ngwu, how do you think that this oil price slump will definitely affect the states? Because we've been talking so much about our federal government. That's why I decided, I think this week, we're going to look at it, at least better part of this week, to see the impacts on states.
Well,
initial shocks.
Nobody should be surprised about this, because if it is not COVID-19 today, it could be something else. The unfortunate thing is that we are now waiting to just survive this and wait for the next crisis again. So states should not be reactive in this. We should be proactive enough, just like my colleague said. And how do you become proactive? We have x-rayed this thing for close to 2 decades now, looking at what are the things that the state should do. And development is not rocket science. Other regions and other countries have done it. Vietnam was dependent on oil. Today, they are almost, the oil is just 5%. And they are doing how much? In excess of $500 billion in export. How much is the Nigerian money that we are talking about? Last year, we are talking about $28 billion. So we've known countries that have taken the bull by the horn and were able to address this thing. So simply, first thing first, we are an agrarian economy. Processing of agricultural product is the next value chain that needs to be looked at clearly. We are not doing that. We are busy still. We just talk about this thing for the past 60 years. It's years of inaction where we talk about it and real genuine action to say, let's transform this, doesn't happen. For example, now, just to tell you that small things can make changes. Look at this rice issue. What they have done in Kebbi is really, despite the imperfections, Kebbi is a commendable step. The governor should be commended because at least we have seen that the rice revolution is working. Now imagine if we have similar value chain, wheat, ginger, maize, and the rest, that we are able to say, let us look at this processing. Post-harvest losses, 40% or even 45% of our harvest goes into post-harvest losses. And that's why our farmers continue to remain poor, and the income of farmers is not increasing. They are even further being impoverished because you put in a lot, and at the end of the day, even storage takes almost half of your income. Okay. So the foundation should be looking at agriculture as the first.
Okay. Dr. Ngwu, what do you expect to see on the fiscal side of states as there is a slump in oil price now, which seems not to be abating? We've seen economic stimulus coming in from different parts of the world, the US, the UK, and they're even saying it's not enough. The ECB president, Christine Lagarde, even apologized over her comments, I think last Friday, did not help to suit the market. And she came back, okay, she didn't mean it that way and all of that. So what immediate actions would you like to see on the fiscal side of states? The federal government says it's going to slash its budget. Of course, look at the budget again. Most of the states have bogus budgets. The Cross, is it the Cross River? Where's the state of Professor Ayade? I think Cross River.
The 1 trillion.
Yes, the 1 trillion. In fact, I met the deputy governor sometime early this year. And when he came to me, we spoke. I was like, oh, I said, okay, the 1 trillion naira state. He started laughing. So what do we hope to see with budgets of the states?
I think that there are a few things that the state governors can do. I will list them, and I'll return back to what my colleague just said about regards to agriculture. In the short term, what they can do is, one is that what we mostly can actually go into is mainly agriculture. Yeah. But we have to also find out what is the major constraint to agriculture. One is insecurity. That's why I'm saying that they need to take it as serious as possible. After the coronavirus, of course, the global demand for food will increase. So that means that we also need to say in terms of processing, packaging, and export of these foods. So that's one. The other thing they have to do is to prioritize their investment in areas that can attract private capital. So that's states like Kaduna, Edo, are coming up with good policies that are attracting private capital. Then third thing is to reduce certain expenditures, or what I can call smart austerity measures. So there are some of them that are spending money that are not necessary, without even realizing that some of this money are borrowed, and so they need to be more prudent in spending it. So I've mentioned in different times, in terms of how will a state governor be using 500 million naira every month as security vote. I mean, it's difficult to understand. How will a state governor be having 50 special assistants trying to achieve what? How will a state governor be buying over 100 Prado Jeeps to share to political appointees? I mean, some of them we are not even driving Camry 2001 before they got appointed. So how will you reconcile some of these things? But in terms of coming back to the main thing that they're supposed to do with regards to agriculture, So that is the immediate term, in the short term that they're supposed to look at. And as I said before, there is no state in Nigeria that is not viable. So what they need to do is to do impact analysis in terms of the impact of this coronavirus on the economy of Nigeria and impact of this coronavirus on their states with regards to revenue. And now ask the hard questions and say, what can we do? So let me look at, if you look at Lagos and Ogun State, for example, so what is affecting or stopping proper a trade or higher trade between Lagos and Ogun, especially from the Ekpe axis, so Ijebu-Ode and rest of them, is the bad state of roads. So is it not possible? I've argued many times that the governor of Ogun State should actually try and see how we can start constructing the road between Lagos and Ogun. And that is what is supposed to happen in different parts of Nigeria. So if you look at Southeast, the different capitals in Southeast are just 1 hour difference. So I remember asking former governor of Imo State, Ihedioha, during the Economic Summit group, why is it not possible for the Southeast governors to come together and ensure that interstate roads are properly provided to enable evacuation of agricultural products and enable the trade to go up? And he said that the discussion is taking place. Unfortunately, he's been removed. So the question is, for the governors of Southeast, why can't Governor Ugwuanyi, Governor Umahi, Governor Obiano, and Ikpeazu and Uzodimma come together and say, all the states in Southeast where the landmass is not too big, and say, okay, we'll make sure that all the states are properly connected. And they also sit down and say, what are our areas of comparative advantage? And say, okay, Abia, you're very good with palm oil, and we are also very good in palm oil. Why don't we say, okay, in this next 3 years, in the next 2 years, we're going to have at least 2 million or 5 million palm trees in Abia State. Let me also mention that about 80% of the palm trees we have in Nigeria are natural. That is, it wasn't planted by
anyone, yes.
And it was just mainly planted by birds and by rats. So the birds will just carry it to another place and it will start germinating and all that. So if they're able to do that, and you can say, oh, Enugu, you're very good with rice and other things, why can't Governor Ugwuanyi say, okay, in the next 2 years, we're going to actually compete with Ebonyi or compete with Kebbi with regards to rice production. By the time they share this, or you find out that the revenue of the state will naturally start going up. I've argued before that the potato from Plateau State is of better quality than the one we get in Netherlands. However, they are getting about $1.something billion every year from potatoes, or $2.something billion, sorry. Kenya exports flour of I love you, I hate you.
Yes, every morning.
Every morning to Europe.
Yes.
And these are flowers. Is it not possible for a state to say, let's focus on flowers, or let's focus on potato, let's focus on one particular thing and start doing it very well? They are not doing it because every month they receive big allocation from Abuja. But interestingly, this allocation is, I was talking to one man and he said that he prays that the challenges will continue for a long time so that people can really go back and sit back and start thinking seriously about the country and about Nigeria. So these are some of the things that it can do to move the state forward. And I think that they are not rocket science. They are easy things to do once the state and the governors are serious about what they want to do.
Okay. Mr. Gashinbaki, you want to add to that, because just like what you said, he also took over from what you said in terms of agriculture. But beyond agriculture, we have, I think, about 44 exploitable minerals in the country. Just back door or next door to Abuja is Nasarawa State. I know that Nasarawa State is so endowed with what they call, I think, barytes, which is needed in the oil and gas industry. But you are not seeing a lot of that being done in terms of exploiting the mineral resources we have in the country. Still, the federal system, is it not suffocating the state system in the sense that the land belongs to the states, but government collects the proceeds? So yes, the proceeds of the land. So would we really see an honest and a truthful development for states across Nigeria without that conversation being taking place and the solution to it?
I agree with you absolutely. There are so many moving parts that need to be coupled together to address this issue. But you see, if you are moving from hydrocarbons to solid minerals, all over the world, what we have seen is that any economy that is based on what you extract or what you plant is a primitive economy.
Primary production.
Yes, so if we remain, even if we say the quick fix now is solid minerals, it's just an easy solution that after you extract it and so on. The next level that will help us tackle unemployment, deal with issues of middle class, put money in the pocket of the country and the 3 tiers of government is manufacturing. And that is why agriculture transition generally into agro-processing, because that's how manufacturing emerges. So even if we decide to say the fallback position now is to do solid minerals, as long as you will not add value to the extracted solid minerals, it's still square one, because you have not added value and you sell it at, you are subject to the price volatility because they are all commodities.
Yes.
So you are still subject to that price volatility. So manufacturing has to emerge so that it deals with issues of employment, issues of carving the entire middle class, because manufacturing is what has created the middle class. Before the manufacturing era, there was no such thing like middle class across the world. So it was manufacturing that led to the evolution of the so-called middle class. And the middle class are the economic engine of any economy because they are the real workers that...
the blue-collar jobs and all of that.
Yes, they drive the economy in a sense. Now, once you do that, you see revenues being collected by FIRS and the revenue authorities of these states will begin to search because the income of people will increase. The income of corporates will increase. What bothers me is that last year, I was listening to a report, and Nigerians were excited when they heard that customs collected 1.3 billion.
So
1.3 billion of what?
1.33 trillion. 1.35 trillion.
1.35 trillion to my
yes,
sister.
Yes.
Now, if we are excited about that,
that means we're a dysfunctional nation.
that is it. You are just talking about imports, because what we will be happy about is when you come and tell me, okay, the gross IGR collection of the state has increased from 900 billion to 2 trillion or to 3 trillion. Why? Because individuals, small corporates, SMEs, are really getting it right. They can pay more taxes. The FRS is declaring huge revenue collection. That is progress.
The kind of conversation we should have.
That's the kind of conversation that we should have.
Customs should be a trade facilitator.
Yes, and some of the little things that are missing in the cycle. For example, if you look at the issue of even basic data, it's a challenge.
Okay. We have just a few minutes to go. Dr. Ngwu, let me ask you what you think will happen to the minimum wage moving forward, because that seems to be like what will be, that will be what will collect the blow first. I wanted to put it in a way that my people will understand. That is where what's the name of this our guy, the boxer, Anthony Joshua, that's where his heat will come. What do you expect? Just quickly, we have to go.
Okay, I think the minimum wage needs to be paid. The workers deserve it. Is given the inflation rate and other factors in Nigeria, I'm not sure it's debatable again. But let me also mention quickly that you asked Iliyasu what with regards to mining and rest of them. I've argued also that there is a need for a roundtable discussion with regards to what the federal government is controlling in the exclusive list and what the states can control in the concurrent list. I think that there's a need for a proper review of the exclusive list to move some items like mining, agriculture, health to the concurrent lists so that the states and local government can really focus on other areas. But even if the states cannot do more, what they can do in their respective states is if they can clearly focus on creating a friendly business environment to attract private capital. As I argued earlier on, about 20% of the global investable funds earn negative interest. And they are looking for areas where you have good business environment for them to invest. So if they cannot do much let them just create the right business environment, not increasing taxes, not increasing using area boys to exploit people, but doing the right thing in terms of creating the environment that will attract business to come into the economy.
Okay, your concluding remark. We have to go.
Yeah, we can do it. We can get around the situation, but the focus should be trying to identify a more sustainable solution, not just when COVID-19 is over now, and for example, oil prices rallies, and then we all
go back to business as usual.
Yes, and to be sleeping and not just sleeping and snoring, because of we don't need another 60 years of inaction. For me, it's easy for the states to, no state in Nigeria, I agree with my colleague, no state in Nigeria is incapable of taking care of itself even without oil. That I firmly believe. All we need to do is to just put the right structure there. Agriculture is the base. Manufacturing, you lay that one on it. We have to also look at our data, because basic data, even the number of children in school is a challenge for us, or even the number of schools that we have. So you can see data is at the center of economic planning. Data is at the center of revenue generation. You need data. Data is at the center of even fighting insecurity. So small things like that, we need to pay attention to it, because you cannot build a technology infrastructure on nothing. It has to be on data. And you cannot have an economy where we are growing, the population is even growing more than the economy, and the credit system is still trapped. So in a way, a number of things taken together, constitutional review as to what should remain in the concurrent and the exclusive list, and issues of what should go to what should not even be the issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
So many issues.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting conversation.
Yeah.
Just like I said, I'll be looking at it as we go on, even through this week,
Yes.
because there are so many things. There are layers like onions. You are peeling.
Yes.
You are peeling. You are entering another issue.
Yes.
But we'll try as much as possible to dissect all of them. Dr. Ngwu, are you still there? Let me say bye-bye to you from Abuja. Thank you for joining us today. We'll continue the discussion, like I said earlier. So thank you for joining us. Have a great day.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Mr. Gashinbaki, thank you also for joining me today. I wish you all a lovely day. And like they say, we pray so much. So let's pray that it doesn't go down. Or some will say this prayer, let oil be going down so that we'll have sense by force. Anyway.